Were you ever that one in 1 million? If so, what's your story? I had 8 wisdom teeth. The dentist had never seen anything like it and called the whole office in to marvel at my teeth. I was struck by lightning while talking on a landline. This was in the early 90s. Lightning struck the telephone line and traveled through the handset to my ear. My parents drove me to the ER. I couldn't talk very well. My brain knew what I wanted to say, but my mouth didn't want to say it. I had a terrible stutter. My doctor told me that I had had a dose of good, old-fashioned electroshock therapy. My speech was normal the next day, but I get a terrible headache whenever a thunderstorm comes through. I have completely unexplained hearing loss in my left ear. I had a cyst in it when I was 6, and the surgery to remove it and fix the ear was successful. When I was about 12, I woke up one morning with a killer headache and ear ringing, and after 3 days it went away, and so did my hearing. Doctors did multiple examinations and an MRI, and they said it should be totally functional. It just isn't. 1 in a million case. I once guessed a 6-digit random combination on the first try. It was the only try I planned to give, as a kind of scratchpad whatever moment. I've got the middle toes on both feet webbed. So did Stalin. Quack. I was on Tinder and was talking to this guy. He was supposed to meet me for dinner. I texted him and no answer. Then I texted him on Tinder, said that he couldn't make it. However, I got a text back from the number. It wasn't the guy that I thought I texted. It was the actor, Gerard Butler. I thought he was lying until he FaceTimed me. Nice guy. I have an unknown type of autosomal dominant centronuclear myopathy. My type of it is so rare that they haven't even seen it before. Getting diagnosed was a multi-year struggle. They pretty much had to rule out everything else. It doesn't feel great to be in this club by myself. Countless blood draws, MRIs, CAT scans, and a biopsy, and genetic test. So far, it looks like my father and I are the only ones with it. Yay. No sure about the odds on this one, but I survived a non-survivable plane crush. I was on an old Po-2, famous for being very safe and uncrushable, on a tour of the desert in western China when I was like 7. My father's friend who hosted me and piloted the plane didn't survive, but somehow I got out with a concussion and apparently passed out for almost a day in the middle of the desert in the wreckage of the crash, 50 kilometers from the town of Airport on the edge of the desert. The people who found me were some tree planters. They plant greens in the desert to protect towns from sandstorm. A lot of people live in these desert towns in China do this. Found me on their way, picking up a shipment. And the only reason they looked was BC. They were making a bet on how fast the egg would cook in the sand and went off the road to test. I am allergic to the cold, like literally. I get intense hives, swelling, I pass out, and throw up. Doesn't even have to be freezing. Below 45 degrees without a jacket, and I can't do it. I have to carry an EPI pen with me in the event that I drink something too cold or have a severe reaction. I own a Lego minifigure called Mr. Gold. This particular minifig was to celebrate the 10th series of the Lego figurine line. They are sort of like grab bags. You can feel for them, but you don't know what minifigure you're really going to get. So because they were celebrating, they thought it was a good idea to only make $5,000 of these. Anyways, when I was younger and even now, I was really good knowing which figures they are simply by looking at the figures pieces and feeling out those pieces. I really like the minifigures because I thought they were really cool and unique. So I really wanted Mr. Gold, and me and my mom hunted for it for a long time, but after a while I gave up. Then one day I was at the Lego store and felt the distinct diamond piece and freaked out. Finding this figure was a downright fantasy. I'm 18 now and still want to relive 12-year-old me's pure joy as he opened the packaging. Edit, thanks for making me Mr. Gold twice, also 2 words. When I was a teenager, I had just started working at the local Sears Auto Center Express lube shop, and on day 1, did a quick orientation and my first oil change. The manager walked away when he felt I was good to go, and the oil change went well. Fast forward a few days later, my manager asked me to come into his office, and he explained that the oil filter I had used had one huge flaw. I didn't know what that was, and it turned out the filter was pressed on backwards into the filter can, and it wouldn't allow oil to flow in, and it damaged the motor. They had to purchase a new motor for the person, and I still kept my job. He said it was a 1 in a million chance that would have happened, and it did on my first oil change. I was diagnosed with leukemia. I got a bacteria growth which killed the leukemia, a real one in 1 million chance. Uterus ruptured into my bladder after birth of my youngest. It was 1/4 in, away from a major artery. nearly died. This is my mom's story, and I've posted it before, but she once called her friend back in the day on the landline, and another lady answered. My mom asks if her friend was there, and the lady says, "Sure, I'll get her." My mom's friend hops on the phone and asks how she was here. Turns out my mom got a number wrong when dialing, called a random house where someone was hosting a Tupperware party, and my mom's friend just happened to be attending it. What are the odds of that shit? My sperm did the race straight to the egg, won, and now I've retired. Thank you, that is all. I was diagnosed with a rare cancer that happens in males more often than females, usually happens to patients between 45 and 60, and happens in the abdomen or legs. I was a 34-year-old female, and it happened to my right arm. For the record, I'm in remission, but I couldn't believe I defied everything about the stupid fucker. Not quite 1 in a million, but close enough. As a child, I had an extremely rare autoimmune disease. On top of having an extremely rare illness, I developed the rarer and most dangerous of the symptoms. My kidneys started shutting down. Most kids recover from this disease, but not always the ones with kidney issues. I was extremely lucky. I did not have to go on dialysis, and my kidneys eventually reached normal functioning levels. It took a decade to be completely cleared of the disease. My mother likes to call me a miracle child, not only because of this, but because she was not supposed to be able to have a kid due to health issues and had several miscarriages before my stubborn ass decided to be born. Weird shit. Aggressive fallopian tube cancer. 2 years later, I had a malignant pleural tumor. Also have late diagnosis of stage 2 and 3 urogenital reflux, which is usually discovered before a kid is out of diapers. I was too old for the surgeons to fix it properly. Also, I'm a redhead with blue eyes, hitchhiker thumb, double jointed, and have double row of eyelashes. And my kid is a pretty close copy, despite her bio dad having dominant genes, half Japanese. I was kidnapped when leaving work and held for 18 months, along with 2 other girls. The guy who took us claimed himself to be an ineffable lower god and used cult tactics, manipulation, and control to have us be his family. I was allowed to leave to the grocery store as an errand, but knew if I didn't come back, the others would receive my punishment. I finally got away by stabbing my captor when I believed he was going to kill me. Born with Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, had surgery at the age of 17. Many people don't have that diagnosis until they are old and gray. I had a freak accident that revealed it. I am a 19-year-old male. In August of last year, I was driving with my sister when suddenly her face turned cold. "Gavin, your eyes are yellow," I remember her saying. I quickly pulled down the passenger's mirror, and to my horror, 2 yellow eyes radiated back at me. Fast forward, I spent a month being sick. The initial diagnosis was hepatitis A. Went back to the doctor, nothing was better, things were worse in fact. Was sent to the ER, then to the liver transplant unit at UCSF. By this point, my eyes had turned muddy orange, and my pee was the color of a mahogany tree. Anyways, the team of liver doctors at UCSF managed to save my liver. I was diagnosed with autoimmune hepatitis. Oh, and my eyes are white again. Bought $3 worth of pong balls at one of those games at the state fair. I think it was 10 balls, and the grand prize is in the middle, and you have to land it in a small glass container. I was having fun, and just decided to throw it by flicking my wrist in a weird way. It bounced around for a while and landed right in the red glass container, which was the grand prize. Even the worker was surprised that I got it. Had to walk around the state fair with a giant Charmander plush toy after that. I was born 1 pound and 6 ounces in 1998. Doctors said I had like a 15% of surviving or something like that. They also said that if I did survive, I would have been a vegetable. So months pass. Funny thing was, I came out of the hospital on the day I was due, came out in February, left the hospital in June, while I am still forming as a baby. And it's 20 years later, and I'm alive and healthy. I can walk, talk, and all the normal things. Only thing really wrong with me is my right eye is hanging on a thread cause of reasons, and I'm socially autistic. I guess that's 1 in 1 million. My dad once asked me for a quarter. I tossed it to him and it went directly into his shirt pocket.